Daniel?
How are you?
Okay, I'll be with you in 5 minutes, okay?
That's okay. It's okay. We have plenty of time. We're okay. Just want to make sure you're here.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi,
Oh, hello.
how are you?
All right. It turns out I am the technical guy also for this. They have me doing everything today. So I have to make all of you co-hosts, I think, or something like that. So, but actually, I'm the other one sharing a presentation, so I probably don't need to do it. But anyway, I'll do it for our partners. But our partners are doing mind mapping.
Good, wonderful.
Yeah, learn more about it.
Yeah, it's an interesting subject.
Yeah, it looks like something I'd like to explore.
Yeah.
We're always telling them, you know, in terms of maybe pre-mapping, pre-looking at ideas before, and then maybe explaining things through mind maps.
Abigail.
She's there, and then she got up for a sec.
Okay, all right. I'll tell Glenda we're on. I've written out a script. I mean, have you also written a script, Abigail, or are you going to just speak from there?
I've written out points and how I want to start, but because I want to stay very confined, because I don't want to say stuff.
That's what I'm worried about, just going over time.
I won't regret it. I won't regret it. I won't regret it. You'll regret it. I won't regret it. I'm trying to.
Abigail, I'll give you my mom's WhatsApp if you want to hear Geschichte, you know.
Oh God, that is so old. I haven't heard that word in.
This is being recorded, right? This is being recorded now?
Yeah. Never mind. Okay. Stop going.
Who's Norazida?
Norazida is somebody who's going to be joining us.
I understand, but what I just want to ask is, you said something about a co-host. No,
don't worry about it, because
okay.
I'm doing the screen sharing.
We don't need to be co-host, just the other presenting team.
So the other presenting team, I want to ask them who.
In order to share screen, you need to do it.
Yeah, I want to get them to tell me who's presenting.
Although even I had my students sharing their screens even when they weren't co-hosts. It depends what the setting is.
Yeah, I just happened to see that in the other session.
I could now share screen without being a co-host. I now have an option to share screen.
I think I made you a co-host.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh, it says multiple participants can share. You're right. They have it on that. So I don't see why they put everybody as co-hosts. Okay.
But you're going to take care of the slides. You'll take care of the slides.
I'm in charge of our slides.
Okay.
And yeah, they can just share.
I think that when I want you to switch a slide, I'll just go like, you know, Daniel, thank you. Something like that, because
I'm going to say, and now you see from the process slide or from the purpose slide or whatever, then you'll see that you'll just move on. And then I just need to click into those 2 links.
Yeah, that I know. And I know. Did you guys go to the yoga?
Yeah, it was quite nice, actually.
It was nice, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if anybody will come back on after lunch. I mean, it's like the siesta hour, isn't it? It's been quite a heavy morning.
In other words, so we know if nobody appears, we can just do it to ourselves, and I understand.
But it'll be recorded, so people can still watch it later on anyway.
I didn't think there was a way out.
But we can see people are joining us. If you go to gallery view, you can see people joining us.
Mm-hmm.
It's another 8 minutes anyway.
I need so much work done.
Right.
Yes.
There's a chat already.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to go get some drink. I'll see you soon.
I'm too old for this. I don't enjoy it. I enjoy listening, but don't need this anymore. So now you can hear me, but nobody else can.
Everybody can.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to do something. Okay.
A pre-talk warm up, huh? Yeah, it'll take a while, I think, for people to come back from lunch. I don't.
Yes, that is.
We'll be starting in 1 minute. My name is Daniel. It says room 6, but my real name is Daniel. And if anybody needs anything from me, please let me know via the chat. Okay, so I think we're going to begin with our first workshop. We have two workshops today. The first one is entitled Concept Maps as a Tool for Teaching and Developing Academic Writing. And it's going to be delivered by Julian Klaus from the Otto Friedrich University in Bamberg, Germany. And his co-authors are Professor Dr. Manuel Förster from the Technical University of Munich in Germany, and Professor Dr. Karin Henrichs from the University of Education in Upper Austria. And I understand that Julian will be presenting today. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks a lot. I try to show my desk. One moment.
I'm not so sure that we can hear you. You might want to.
I'm sure we can't.
Okay, it's not just me.
You can hear me, everyone?
Very, very faint.
One moment.
It's like you're in Germany.
Is it so better?
Yeah.
Okay, then without this one here, but no problem. I try to here. Can you see my starting point? Okay, then hello and welcome to the workshop Concept Maps as a Tool for Teaching and Developing Academic Writing. We only have 20 minutes. For this reason, we start. Today's workshops are participants can state pros and cons of using concept maps for academic writing. Participants are able to recognize the contribution of concept maps with informative assessment processes, and participants develop strategies how to use concept maps within courses. But now to the outline, we start with academic writing. It's very short, but I think it is important. Then we go to concept maps, assessing concept maps, and in the end, it's up to you. We may work with an example. Academic writing is one of those terms that is often invoked as if everyone agreed on its meaning, and so is used impreciously, yet almost always for what the user regards as a precise purpose. For example, commonly by teachers in explaining what they want from students. According to this is 2006, writing that fulfill purpose of education is called academic writing. From teachers' point of view, this term focuses students writing for assignment, report, essays, paraphrase, lab report, or any kind of professional writing within university. In whole education system around the world, all university level students must write in such a level which must meet some standards with appropriate grammar, spelling, and must be relevant of the topics they are asked to write. All undergrads are required to write a level which meets academic standards, where essays are coherent with acceptable grammatical structure and accurate spelling. Knowledge that writing can present a challenge for some students as it cognitively demanding and invokes a deep and powerful kind of learning. A good academic writing focuses on generating idea, organizing, and presenting in acceptable ways, and this is important, rewrite it after getting feedback from readers or teachers. The keywords here are in an acceptable way, and this means ultimately acceptable to the academic community the student is going to join. This involves helping the students become aware that differences may exist between their previous experience of academic writing and what is now expected. Graph, charts, diagrams, or any kind of mapping tools can facilitate students for organizing the concepts for academic writing. The idea of explaining complex information visually is, of course, you know, quite old. Flowcharts, for example, were developed in 1970s. P-charts or other visual formats go back much earlier. Formal ways of mapping complex information began at least 30 years ago. In the current research, academic writing is looked at in particular as the students experience increased combination of their own ideas, both in terms of increased number of ideas generated and the resulting synthesis of ideas before and after the use of technique called concept mapping. As a result of a study from Mehmet et al. 2011, researchers conclude the research with a positive view on concept map and from the experiments to show that it is really a powerful tool to improve in academic writing. The paper ends with the sentence, "This research will help the researchers of the field of contemporary research, academic reading, poster presentation, academic presentation, and innovate teaching and learning methodologies." Now to concept map, and you know, a concept map is a pictorial representation of a domain that consists of concepts represented as nodes that are connected to each other by arcs. The concepts are words or ideas that represent events or objects or even emotions and feelings. The connections are connection arcs represented the conceptual links, showing that the concepts are conceptually and logically related in some manner between two or more concepts within the concept map. Concepts are located in rectangles or other geometrical forms. Concepts can be represented by single keywords or phrases or simple drawings. Arcs are lines used to connect the concepts. Linking words are sometimes written on the arcs to describe the relationship between the two concepts. The linking words should specifically explicate the relationship between the two concepts. Together with the two concepts, the linking words form a proportion, such as the grass is green, from the concept grass, green, and the linking word is but remember please, no right map exists. As all maps are idiosyncratic to each individual, different people may produce very different maps for the same conceptual domain. A concept map can be wrong, however, if propositions are incorrect, such as the cat speaks English, for example. The interconnection between the concepts give rise to the power of the concept map. More interconnection and cross-linkages are an indication of a greater complexity and sophistication of understanding. Frequently, it is important frequently the two mapping procedures, concept mapping and mind mapping, are confused or equated. For this reason, the two methods are to be separated from each other at this point. Mind maps are strictly hierarchical to their tree structure with a central concept as a starting point. Crosslinks between concepts on different branches are not provided. On the other hand, all terms in a concept maps are to be regarded as equivalent. Each concept can be linked to any concept. In the mind map, the connection between two terms are illustrated by a branch. In contrast, the links are labeled in the concept map. With the mind map, the viewer can only speculate about the nature of the connection. So The conclusion is mind maps are therefore less suitable for an order of thoughts or representation, but rather for first brainstorming. Here you can see different types of concept maps. We have the hierarchical, the spider, the flow, and the system type. Hierarchical type presents information in a descending order of importance. That means the most importance is on the top. The spider concept map organized by placing the central theme or unifying factor in the center of the map. The flow concept maps organize information in a linear format. That means, for example, you can show a process like in problem-based learning. You can use this one here. And the last type is system concept maps. Is organized information in a format which is very similar to the flow type with the addition of inputs and outputs. This is new. Concept map can be made represent an individual current level of knowledge and understanding. That means every student create a concept map in education setting, for example, to organize instruction methods or to organize their own thoughts. Or concept map can be constructed as part of a collaborative group process in education setting for group projects, or if you want to share knowledge within a group or the whole class. And you can combine this two one. The students can create individual concept map, then present the concept map in the class, and the other students or you can give feedback on the concept map. There are many different pros and cons. I have here some. Pros, for example, are reduced information, structuring, visualizing, communication, or elaboration. Reduced information means, for example, complex issues are in simplified terms. Structural relationship between the elements come forward. This is very important because you structure your concept and then you see connections. Visualizing, for example, and so on. And cause, for example, it may be challenging for those who are used to rote learning. It is a new kind of learning, it's a new method, and it's not so easy for the students to use it. And maybe challenging to assess. This is for you as a teacher. It is not so easy to assess and say this is a good or this is not so good good concept map. But I think we have not the best solution, but one solution. And here you can see a method of assessing concept map based on the components and structure of the map. For example, you can give points for valid crosslinks, 10 points, or for levels of hierarchy, you can give 5 points. It's very quantitative, but I think it's a way to assess it. Or you can also, a less formal approach to creating concept map is to use a set of assessment criteria within a rubric. For example, you can say, okay, the layout or development over time, and say, okay, this is good, it's acceptable, unacceptable, and so on. You can use it for feedback, for example. Concept maps can be used for effective formative assessment in different ways. For example, comparison with expert maps. The student can compare the map with an expert or other student maps in the course, or comparison at single time points or multiple intervals over time. There, the students have the chance to see their development, and the instructor, that is very important, instructor can identify typical students' misconceptions here. Or feedback on indicators, surveys, matching, deep structure, and so on. And I have to say here, it gives first approach of computer-created feedback. This is focusing on different key features. I think this will be the future in the next 2-3 years. This program is available and you can use it for your lessons. And the last one is concept maps can be combined with peer feedback. the students can give feedback to each other on, and the base is the concept map, and can be used for discussion. Now it's enough input. It's your turn. I have one example here. Please read the example and then answer the question below. You see a different question, fill out the learning outcome and teach and learn activity. This is for you. And then it's easier to answer this question on the right side. Please describe implementation strategy, how to use concept map in the course, and assessment criteria here. I think I don't know. Room number 6. Do we have enough time for this?
Yeah, well, we have 5 more minutes. So the question is if you want to give a couple of minutes for us to look at it and then maybe wrap up. Would that be okay with you?
I think 3 minutes to look in and then we discuss 2 minutes. Perfect. Thanks.
Hello, Julian. I don't think your concept map is appearing on the screen. All right. I think I've got it. I'm not. I think
you got it.
No, hold on. No, it's just a message from the chat room.
Oh, okay. One moment.
So I'm not seeing anything on screen, or are you just asking us to think about the answer?
Yeah, yes, I asked to think about the answer here. How can we use concept map in this learning environment?
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Julian, my name's Nina. Do you want me to start a quick feedback?
Yes.
Okay. Very quickly off the top of my head, and I'll just because we've got limited time, I'm always interested if the students at the start do their own mind map of what they think it is, and then to go through the course, do a mind map at the end of what they've learnt to see the difference, and they write their extended piece on what they learnt, the differences between the two.
Yes, I think it's a very good idea. I can show you on the next slide. This is not this course, it's an alternative course, but you can see the development over time. The first is at the start, the second map is in the middle, and the last third map is at the end. And you see the grow on links and new concepts and more difference in it. This is one possibility to use it. Yes.
And it also means that the students learn as a start from each other. I work with a very diverse professional group, and they bring a lot of life experience, and I would never go into a class assuming that I know more than them or not knowing what they know. So I always like to capture what they know, so I know kind of where they're at, and it's always a lot more richer than I could presume. Thanks. That's great seeing this variety.
You're welcome.
And it's interesting about concept maps, because sometimes rather than, I rather like the very first speaker, I work with PhD students and postdocs and staff. And sometimes what I do is I produce the concept map. And then I do things to ask questions and challenge them so that they have some sort of idea of not only what they need to put in, but the direction in which things need to go. So I work with a lot of people who they know their stuff, but they can't get it out in writing because they've spent years working on the same subject and they are so engrossed in the detail that they don't see the bigger picture. So I use this sort of idea. Sometimes I get them to write it, but often I have to give an example of the thing first. And sometimes I actually do it for them from what they say. I ask all those difficult questions. And then I know what I'm doing. I write down bits from what they've said. And then I show them. And what they end up with is what I think you would consider a concept map. And rather than that being something that students just starting have to do, I'm doing it for quite senior people. I just thought I'd add that point in.
So, Julian, if you have a quick comment, because we do need to finish, maybe to react to what Susan has said, and then we will thank you very much.
I have problem with the connection here. I don't understand everything. This is, but do you have any answer to, was it a question? I have really
Susan made the comment of how she actually models when in terms of the experts that she have, who probably are kind of muddled in the details and are very into their subject matter, and she helps them to show the big picture through a concept map, as far as I understood. Yeah,
it's a second possibility to use it in your lesson. Yes, to structure information. Here you can see this is to structure information and thoughts from one student, but the other side you can use it also.
Absolutely. So we would like to thank you so much for sharing the concept map subject with us, and also at least helping me to disentangle between mind maps and concept maps. And it seems like a very, very useful tool that I'm sure many of us will enjoy trying out if we haven't so far, and looking forward to actually digging into your presentation slides when we can get to it.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Okay. If you wouldn't mind just unsharing the screen while I'm just going to go ahead and introduce the next workshop. So the next workshop is from the Interdisciplinary Center in Herzliya, entitled, can you see my screen, everybody?
No.
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 It's on Julian's screen.
We got Julian's.
Okay, so Julian, yeah. So let me just, are you able to unshare it?
I think Julian needs to press stop share.
Yeah.
Where can I do it? Sorry.
I think, wait, I might have, did I override you just now?
Okay.
Can you see the next one?
Yeah,
okay. So the staff from, representatives from the coordinating representatives from the IDC, Interdisciplinary Center in Herzliya, the 4 Ps of writing: purpose, process, paragraphs, and professional writing. And this is given by Dr. Miriam Simon, Dr. Glenda Sachs, Abigail Kirschenbaum-Noy, and Dr. Daniel Portman.
Thank you. So good afternoon. I'm Miriam Simon, and I head the English unit at the Interdisciplinary Center Herzliya in Israel. In our presentation today, we'd like to show you how we aligned writing within IDC's English courses with a common European framework of reference for languages, blurring the boundary between the academic and professional domains, the theme of today's conference. We originally intended to give a workshop, an interactive workshop, but we've got very limited time. We'll share with you our process in some of the different schools, and we will provide you with links to our materials. So as you see in the next slide, you can see the progression and how writing has developed in each level, culminating with a minimum of 3-paragraph essay at the highest undergraduate level. IDC's English program is English for specific academic purposes. And since I teach English to business students, I'll now demonstrate what's done there. In the first half of the course, we model investigating a company. We actually take Starbucks, and students write a 3-paragraph essay on whether Starbucks should re-enter Israel based on various sources. And I'll now show you on the next slide. Okay. The next slide, Daniel. Purpose. This is the purpose slide. Yes. We need to look at the...
It doesn't say purpose?
Yes, the purpose slide. Thank you. Okay. So the second half of our semester is when we really focus on writing. We're building up what was modeled in the first half of the semester, and it's a project-based learning format where students collaborate in groups of 4 and choose a company to investigate as to whether or not it's a good investment. And it's using reading, writing, and speaking. They read in order to research their company. They write up a business report, having already written a 3-paragraph essay. They're now taking that skill to the next level and writing for professional purposes. And then they present their recommendations to a group of investors. And here you see the actual task where they have to see whether or not a company is a good investment. The next slide shows us the process. Okay, so the process starts with finding and reading a case study to identify a past problem in a company. They've chosen a company, and they learn how this company dealt with a problem in the past and give their opinion on that. They then have to look at financial data to see how the company has performed in the last 5 years, the most recent year, and financial analysts' predictions regarding whether investors should buy, sell, or hold on to their shares. And the final required source is an analyst report where students look at the SWOT analysis, the strengths and weaknesses within the company currently, and potential opportunities and threats in the external environment. They then use these 3 sources to start writing, and we give them templates. So if we go into the first template that we have here, we can see that we have how they develop the financial paragraphs using these templates. So they're using the sources and they're using language of trends to complete these paragraphs. First of all, the first paragraph in the past 5 years, how the company has performed, then the last year, and then future financial predictions for the company as to whether or not this company is a good investment and whether you would advise people to buy, share, or hold on to shares in the company. So that's leading into their actual written report. If we go into the next link, the draft 1 of the written report, there we see what is going to be the first draft of their final written product, which is an 8-paragraph essay, bringing in these 3 paragraphs of finance, plus adding to it the SWOT analysis, the strengths and weaknesses currently within the company. First of all, starting with a background to the company, describing past problems, and ending up with a future prediction as to whether or not it's a good investment. Okay, so we can see, if we come back to the original slide, that we have in this picture here, this picture is very apt for the past semester. We've had computers collaborating with other computers rather than us all being within the same classroom setting. But even within breakout rooms of Zoom, we were able to have students collaborating on their writing in teams of 4, building on each other's strengths with teacher support coming into each of the breakout rooms on Zoom. So finally, for my section, if we look at the next slide, what makes their writing professional? First of all, it's the vocabulary. They're focusing on business language, language of trends and connectors. They're also using 21st century skills of collaboration, communication, information literacy, and critical thinking. And moreover, this writing task can be adapted to emails if you think, because emails should be concise, written in paragraph format and with a purpose. And finally, students are using a checklist to find their own mistakes, and they are finally taking responsibility for their own writing. So that's just giving you a very quick picture of the business school. Now my colleague, Dr. Glenda Sachs, will demonstrate writing within the government program.
Right, thank you very much, Miriam. So I teach government students to write what is termed as a position, argumentative or opinion paper. This forms the basis for them to write policy papers where they have to take a position on an issue later on in their careers. Thank you, Daniel. To the next slide. In order to teach them the bare bones of how to write a position or opinion essay, I present them with a very short text titled The Decision to Publish Megan's Law Information, written by David Arnold and Susan Goldberg, two editors who took it upon themselves to publish the names, photos, and addresses of sex offenders in their area. According to Megan's Law, which is a federal law, all US citizens have access to this information, except in California where there was a problem with accessing all this information. So the editors took it on themselves to right this wrong. Students have to decide whether they do whether if they did the right thing is ethical to publish the names of these men who are trying to live normal lives after being incarcerated for their crimes. This is not a discussion paper. Students have to take a stand on the issue and argue for it. Thank you, Daniel. So the lesson is workshopped in 2.5 hours, and so that students can see the development of the argument. This involves a few processes. They first have to read the text, then they discuss the problem put forward in the text, and finally they have to decide whether they agree or disagree with the editors. They then pair up and write, and obviously they have to decide on their position. Collaborative writing is an important part of the learning process, as Miriam pointed out in her talk. And what I do is also provide a template for the first introductory paragraph. Thank you. Then, right. So this is an example of the template that I give them when they start their essay. The advantages of using a template in a lesson is that it allows all the students of all levels to participate and keep up with the lesson. Even though I teach English Advanced too, I do get classes that are very multi-level in their abilities. Some very advanced students, some very, very weak students, and this enables them all to keep up with the lesson. Also, it is very flexible, as advanced students are encouraged to find their own words and use their own sentences. They're not limited to this template, okay? But this is for people who are really struggling, and it helps them get along. So the first sentence is the context, the background of what Megan's Law is. The second and third is the issue, the problem in California. And then the final one is the student's opinion, which is the most important sentence in the essay. Thank you, Daniel. The next, thanks. Okay, so the paragraphs 2, 3, and 4, the rest of the essay, they do not get templates for. However, they are instructed what is needed for each paragraph. So paragraph 2, this is actually where they put the reason for their opinion. And make it very clear that they have to always base their opinion on something from the text and to quote from the text, because usually a lot of their writing is based on text that they have to read. Paragraph 3 is the rebuttal, or the opposing arguments. In academic essays, one always has to consider arguments that you oppose. But then you come back to your own in the last, and here they come back in paragraph 3 in the final sentence, which is their own position again. And the conclusion is very minimal, actually. It's really a repetition of the opinion in the introduction with an extra point added for impact. The only thing they're not given templates, but I do put out words like these highlighted here in red, just to help them along with. And I'm thinking about, of course, those students who struggle. Give them a few words to start off a sentence and help them with their argument. So as you can see, they learn how to write the real bare basics, the bare bones of a position opinion paper, which then they can learn to develop in other courses and seminars into much longer papers. And now I'll introduce Abigail Kirschenbaum-Noy, who will speak about law. Thank you.
Okay, Gail, are you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I thank my Glenda for her previous talk. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I said that teaching legal English is quite challenging because you have to make sure that you have students whose basic English is still weak, and yet they have to be able to learn a new language. What I have is a real learning task that I would like to share with you. And just to get an idea of how difficult teaching, having students write in legal English, I want to show you the prerequisites needed for students to write this type of assignment. So on my slide here, I have constitutional jargon, which includes the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, amendments. That's a lot of jargon for students to study. They need case note terms, which means that they need to know how to read a United States Supreme Court case, how to decode it, and just be able to find the essence of all of the United States Supreme Court case. And the structure of cases was shown to students by exposing them to as many cases as we possibly can throughout the semester. The purpose of this assignment is to connect everything that they learned regarding constitutional terminology and case note terminology through a writing assignment. It enables students to contrive constitutional claims based on the life around them, and soon you'll understand from my example why this is an important statement, and to apply legal structure and jargon to legal questions, issues, and of course, paragraph writing. Now, before I get to my next slide, I want to just say that Dr. Simon's presentation included the professional elements involved, which I don't want to repeat, but it's extremely relevant for their legal working careers. Daniel, thank you. Next slide. Okay, so the purpose is constitutional law writing assignment to be done in pairs, again, to work together. And this is where I said before, taking something that's relevant and to apply it to their legal writing. So we took the coronavirus and we had, we decided that they're going to have to write a skeleton of a case, small precedent regarding something that occurred during the coronavirus. So during the coronavirus, governmental restrictions were forced on citizens, which violated constitutional and human rights. Below are significant material facts regarding our lives and the coronavirus. Students had to choose one basic material fact. Your writing task is to create a case skeleton, the basics of a precedent, which supports or opposes the significant fact of your choice. I'm going to just read out 2-3 examples of what they had to choose from. So students must keep their cameras on during class whilst attending Zoom lessons, or phones are tracked by the police to ensure that citizens abide by quarantine regulations. Daniel? Thank you. And then what we did was, I think this is what Susan said before in her presentation to respond to Julian, and that was, maybe this is a given concept map where I have a skeleton, and in my skeleton, based on just 1, 2, 3 going around the body, no significant part of the body here is more important than the other. You have the case note terms that they will have to elaborate on. Now, they know beforehand how, in other words, when they see a name of a court of last resort, they know what this means already. petitioner seeks, they know what this means already. So by the time they're finished with this, I'm not interested in them making up any concept. This is how disciplined it has to be. By the time they finish filling out each concept here, they then have a little piece of meat on each bone, which finally gives them, Daniel, a Supreme Court justice's, in other words, they see what they have the potential of becoming. Thank you very much for your attention. It has been a pleasure. And now I would like to introduce Dr. Daniel Portman.
Okay, so unfortunately, I think that we've run out of time. So I'm not going to present my part regarding our sustainability program. I do invite you to look through our capstone assignment at the advanced level, which I hope you'll find interesting, as well as the way that we actually analyzed the text that we use when they conduct the research. So this was actually taken from the New York Times. So I'm just going to leave you with a couple of my tools, as well as some of the scaffolding tools that we provide for the students as well. These are all hyperlinked, and I hope you have a chance to look through them. And if you do, would love to dialogue with you regarding the materials I'm going to leave with you. So we've kind of given you a bit of a glance at what we do at IDC. And for each of the programs here that are mentioned, we have the contact person, the person who provided the briefing. And we want to thank you very, very much. There is a question about access to the PowerPoint. Yes, they will be. Everything will be accessible. And we do encourage, of course, yes. I'll put my computer, can you? Pardon? Was there something that somebody wanted to say? Okay, if not, then I believe we're going on to a funny break. There is a link called Funny Break, and see you there. Bye-bye.